Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to FFC Studios again, your favorite podcasting channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe down below if you guys want to stay tuned for all the upcoming episodes we have for you this year of 2023. But it is my pleasure to be able to welcome these guys back. Well, welcome him back. He hasn't been in our podcast yet below, but, and of course you guys have met Luis before. But this is our first episode of 2023, and I wanted to make sure we made this one special for you guys. So I made sure we brought not only two of our clients here, but somebody who's family as well, and somebody who you guys can learn a lot from, that has not only they have accumulated and made a lot of money in their life, but at the same time, they're using a lot of the tax vehicles that we talk about here to make sure they, use the tax system to their advantage, right? And for a lot of you guys that are going to be coming into 2023, this is your first year maybe doing business taxes, first year looking to get into business. Hopefully today adds a lot of value. So just want to say thank you guys for coming again. I know you guys don't live locally here to LA, right? So why don't you introduce yourself to the people? I know they're wondering who the heck are these guys with beards.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. I'll go ahead and start off. Christian, grew up out here in SoCal. Currently a lineman for PG&E. Got into the trade a couple years ago. 6 years ago. Worked for SoCal Edison, and then that's where I met George. Worked together for about 2 years. Developed a great friendship, more like a brotherhood. Now he's family.
It was the beards, huh? It was the beard. Come on, Luis. Where's your beard at, man?
It's on its way. It's
on back order.
It's on back order.
It's on back order, yeah?
It's being delayed at the cargo ships over there in the law.
That's what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened. So that's right. Everybody has a beard. I'm the only one. Okay, that's fine. I'll make sure to grow one by next podcast.
Well, Mark, can you edit? Man.
So yeah, we developed this good friendship, good bond, and had this opportunity to go up north and go work up there for PG&E, and they're offering an insane contract, and he told me about it and basically convinced me to go. We made the jump and ran up there with the family. That was a little hard convincing my wife. We just had a baby, so she was pregnant through that process, and having to move her and the kids, such a crucial time with her being pregnant. But I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. That's all what it comes down to.
How about you, Primo?
My name's George. I'm Alex's cousin by marriage.
We didn't get married, guys. We didn't get married.
Married his cousin. Beautiful Diana.
There you go.
Yeah, I've been in the trade for about 11 years now, and I've bounced around a little bit more than Christian. Started my apprenticeship at PG&E, then went to San Diego for a little bit. Edison for a little bit, where I met Christian, and like he said, developed a good bond, a good relationship. In our industry, you got to really watch who you work with because it's dangerous. You know what I mean? And me and him just clicked, we my boys at PG&E hit me up, said, "Hey man, they're gonna be giving out money out here. You need to come back." And I pulled him along with me, and we're blessed. Second time back up in the Bay Area, but it's been a blessing. And I drive your cousin crazy sometimes, but I'm lucky to have her because she's always willing to just ride with me anywhere we go, and as long as we're advancing, you know what I mean. But that's a little background on me.
Well, that's cool. And for a lot of people that don't know your trade, can you give them a breakdown of what that is, right? Because people hear the term lineman, but they don't have a clue what that is. I know during hurricanes, you just see pictures of hundreds of linemen and, ready for service, things like that. But what is a lineman? What does somebody like that in the industry do? How much do they make? How did you get started in that?
I got a little joke for that. I mean, when people tell me, when I tell people I'm a lineman, they look at me and they go, "You're too short to be a football player." Yeah. But you want to elaborate on that, Chris?
Yeah, I'll touch on it. I think it's we're kind of, I would say like a forgotten first responder. No one realizes, the work that goes into being a lineman until your electricity is off, until you're getting home and your lights don't work, can't turn on the TV, can't turn on your heater, your AC, you know what I mean? Then you really like, oh, shit, I need power. And, that's what we're responsible for, keeping the lights on. It is rigorous. It is hard work. It is long hours. I mean, we're working 24-hour shifts. I mean, now we can work up to, if you want to run it all weekend long from Friday, you're going home Monday morning, you're working. You know, if the power's out, emergency's going on, you're working. You know, and that whether rain, snow, you know, sunny, hot, you're out there. You're in those elements and you're working through all that. And, you know, being away from the family, I think that's the biggest thing. You know, it's the hours away. It's the missed birthdays. It's the missed holidays. It's a big sacrifice. It does come at a sacrifice, you know, so it takes a strong woman, you know, the family to understand you're going to be gone, you're going to miss these things. But, you know, ultimately it's blessed my family, you know, it's blessed a lot of families. You know, you make good money. It's an honest living.
What is somebody like, you know, starting up in the industry? How much do they make?
You know, at
How
entry
fast
level,
can you move forward?
you move pretty quick. I mean, a lot of the money you get paid good hourly, but a lot of it comes from working overtime. You know, I think a lot of guys get in the industry thinking, "Oh, I'm just going to work my 40-hour week and I'm going to get paid great." Like, no, the money that guys strive to make in the industry, it comes at working overtime and working hours. But an entry level guy like a groundman coming in, I mean, I've seen guys make 180,000. You know, and that's just with a high school diploma. High school diploma, you just got to go to line school, get your climbing certificate, get a Class A license, and, you know, get your foot in the door, be willing to work some hours. But, you know, you start as a groundman, you progress, you get your apprenticeship. As your apprenticeship, you know, it's 4 years. You're just learning each step, every 6 months advancing in step. And then, you know, once you get that lineman ticket, you know, in the industry, we call it the golden ticket because you can literally go anywhere in the world and you'll have a job. You know, whether you want to go work storm damage, you know, you want to go work hurricanes, you want, you know, earthquakes, whatever the case may be, you got a job. I can go to Texas tomorrow and sign the local books there and probably have a job within 2 days. So it really is a golden ticket as far as that goes. But, I mean, you got linemen, we got guys we're working with that, I mean, some guys are making 800,000. It's just all about the hours you want to put in, you know. For a single guy, a young guy with no family, I mean, man, the sky's the limit, honestly, you know. But with that kind of money comes with, you know, having to pay taxes, and, you know, you got to leverage that and, you know, start investing that money. Because I don't want to do this forever. You know, it's nice right now. I'm young, my body's able to handle it, and I still enjoy it. I do enjoy getting after it and getting out there and setting poles and doing all that stuff. But, you know, you see these older guys and you just can't withstand it. You know, it's inevitable. You know, Father Time's going to catch up with you, and your bones are going to hurt. You're up on that pole all day. Your knees start hurting. But, you know, so opening businesses and investing the money I'm making, you know, will allow me to get out of it, you know, out of the field sooner than later. You know,
Yeah.
and enjoy that time with the family and kind of, you know, enjoy the fruits of my labor. So that's, you know, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
That's where you come in, Primo. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right. That's what I mean. That's what we're here for. And on your take, is it a labor intensive job? Is it or?
I mean, yeah, you know, it's we all, I mean, you know, luckily in my career, I've seen both. You know, I mean, I've seen the guys that have invested their money properly, and I've seen the guys that have, you know, just, you know, blowing all their money. You know what I mean? Because you're making good money, dude. And, you know, a lot of people don't come from educated backgrounds. You know, like he said, all you really need is a high school diploma and a Class A license, dude. And you can have this job where you can make a bunch of money. And, you know, for a lot of people, I mean, that comes as I mean, I know when I first got my first big check, I was like, dude, I'm rich. Like, this is, you know what I mean? And I mean, it took me a while to adjust to that and learn, like, okay, I need to save my money because, you know, when you make a certain amount of money and then you look at your bank account at the end of the year and you go, where did it all go? Mm-hmm. It's not because it just disappeared. It's because you know, you're misspending it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and, you know, with what you said on the labor intensive, yeah, I mean, you're putting in all these hours, you know, you're putting your body through all this, you know, sleepless nights, you know, you're you know, just, you know, working in the rain, working in the storm, working on sides of mountains. Like, it doesn't matter. Wherever there's power lines, we got to go, you know, and if you don't capitalize on that, you know, it's you know, you have the guys that are 60 plus years old and they're still trying to work every ounce of overtime because their lifestyle's a certain way. And obviously they don't want it to go down, but they can't afford to, you know, not make the money, you know what I mean? And I mean, from what we make straight time to what you make when you work, 4,000 hours a year, it's a big difference. You can triple your salary, quadruple your salary, but you're working for it. Yeah.
No, that's crazy. And I know one of the things you mentioned, and of course, Luis, jump in anytime. But one of the things that most people don't have is financial literacy, right? And so for us, that is one thing that we strive to do. We try to, through here in our firm, our goal has always been to just educate people, make sure we empower them with a little bit more tools. Of course, I like one of his favorite lines, and I love that he says that, and I'm stealing that line, is of course, when you retain our services, then we explain to you all the little intricacies and details of how we do that. I love that line. But of course, what are some tax strategies or anything that you recommend for somebody like that, right? Because there are high wage earners that like them that are making $500,000 or even more, and of course, we can't do so much about the W-2 side. Right. Unfortunately, we all have to pay our taxes. We all pay taxes as well. Sometimes I look at my taxes that are coming out of damn Heartland checks, and man, it sucks. And but then there's other ways of offsetting some of that and just making sure. And everything that we talk about here, I know we talk about this all the time, me and Luis, but it's not about tax evasion. It's about tax avoidance and learning how to use the system to your advantage, right? But what are maybe some tips that you would recommend for some people like that are in their situation?
It all has to do with the way you, like you said, you spend your money. But really, you don't want to spend it. You want to invest it. You invest in a business. You invest in a property. And then you can utilize those tools, right, to minimize your tax, your tax liability. You also have credits. It has to do a lot with, your marital status, children or not. After a certain point, let's
go into the property. How about that? Because I know a lot of these guys, they've referred to us, man, like a ton of people, and a lot of these guys have a property or two properties, or they have rental properties, or they're looking to get into rental properties. Why is that a good place to maybe put some of their money?
Well, number one, it generates income for you, right? So you talk about, I don't want to be working with when I'm 60 doing this because it's going to take a toll on me and whatnot. And you want to have a good lifestyle after a certain age. Well, that's the number one reason. But then also you can utilize that to leverage your tax liability through the deductions that you get by owning properties, such as repairs, mortgage, utilities, etc. Whatever you put into the property, you can write it off and deduct, and that reduces your tax liability as well. So that's a good strategy. If you have, let's say, you guys are linemen, so you're electricians, you can do that at power lines. You could do it on your own. Have an established business, right? Through the business, you can also utilize that to reduce your tax liability. If you start a business, you have your employees, you have storefront, trucks, etc. You can utilize that also to reduce your tax liability, right? So you're not only limited to just purchasing, you're also able to invest in a business that you started on your own with your own money, and it doesn't have to be related to what you guys are doing. It could be related to something else. Let's say you guys seem that you're very esteemed of your wives. That's great. Maybe they can start the business for you, whatever business it is that you guys had one time. Like I've always wanted to open a car wash, So if I would open up a car wash, I wouldn't be attending to it, but I have somebody who can help me with it, and then utilize that as well, right? Yep. The gains or the losses to reduce and offset your tax liability. So those are some strategies that you can use as well.
A little extra payroll deduction too.
Absolutely.
Maybe get some tax credits, things like that, which I know it's a lot of the things that you guys are doing. And it's funny. I noticed that it's popular, and if you're a lineman watching this, I'm sure you already know. But it's very popular in your industry to have a lot of toys. Yeah. Yeah. And for those who don't know what I mean by toys, why don't you guys explain what I mean by that?
Well, Chava, why don't you explain to people why we nicknamed you Chava Stacks?
Chava Stacks, huh? Oh, wait, is he the bad example you were telling me about when we met that one time?
Maybe.
No, man. I mean, we work so much. All the hours we put in, you want to have fun outside of work. You know what I mean? Take the family out and enjoy, some of this money we're making. Not just, hey, I'm off this weekend to sit on the couch and watch TV because I want to relax. Yes, granted, there is weekends I do want to do that, but I like to get out there and have fun. So I bond, razors, toy haulers, and I like to get out in the desert and go riding and go dooning. So that's something I've been doing in the last couple of years, Havasu in the summer, out on the boat, and just enjoying it, man. Just enjoying little weekend getaways. That kind of leads us into kind of the business that we're starting now is doing like a desert top tier. It's top tier rentals. Look for us. We'll be.
Check them out. We'll put their ad below so that way you guys can check them out. You guys, a little commercial here. What do you guys do with there?
So we're gonna be doing toy haulers, side by side rentals, truck rentals. That's what we're starting. We're gonna expand. We'll get into different avenues, but I think it's more just offering people a convenience. Being that I've done it the last 2 years, and I just some of maybe not struggles, but as far as the overhead and different things I look at, as far as I've rented toy haulers, I've always had my own razor, but I didn't have the toy hauler, or I had the truck, didn't have the razor, so there's always different avenues, or I don't have nowhere to store this toy hauler, so we're trying to offer an alternative to people and a convenience and be able to rent, a whole setup to somebody. Hey, you don't have a $2,000 overhead every month for your truck, toy hauler, razor, and your storage fees, you pay us for a weekend and, we'll take care of it. We'll go drop it for you. We'll, rent you the razor. We'll rent you the truck, if you just need it for a day, if you need it for a weekend, so just offering a convenience, and an experience. It comes down to an experience, for someone else who may be looking to get in the industry, doesn't want to go all in and buy a brand new truck, toy hauler, and razor, but they want to take the family out to enjoy it. It's something they can plan and we'll provide, we'll provide everything they need.
They said we can try it out first to make
We
sure
can
it's
try it, right.
legit, make sure everything works correctly.
Yeah.
They said
I'll
it was,
volunteer to be one of those tryouts.
yeah.
No, and I think that's very convenient because, like individual like myself, I'm the type of person who likes to get somewhere and have everything just basically, I don't want to say catered because I know some pretentious, but kind of like there,
Yeah.
right? Just available. And I think the feature that you guys are the key thing here is making everything accessible for the consumer or the person who wants to take the vacation without that person having the hassle to, deal with all the, I have some neighbors that they're always hauling their boats out over there. I'm not familiar with the terminology, but whatever cars they use for the desert. And they come in the middle of the night and you can see they're all beat up and they're like, ugh, but they enjoy it and it's great. Right. I couldn't do that. So what you guys are offering for individuals like myself, I mean, it's great.
Just hop in the truck, Luis, and you go. That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's sick. And I mentioned that because I know there's a lot of people watching this that maybe are highway journers and they start buying all these things, but they don't realize that they can actually make these things into a business that can give them access to tap into the expense system and things like that, right?
Yeah.
For somebody in those kind of industries, what have you seen are some of the tax advantages or tax deductions, things like that they can write off now that they're actually having a legitimate business?
Well, once you have that business, I mean, obviously your startup cost is key. You can write that off. Utilities, naturally, maintenance as well. But the vehicles themselves is the biggest thing. You can write it off either as a whole. Well, not anymore. After 2023, the whole Section 179 change, and we'll probably do a podcast about that more in detail down the line. But you're able to write off certain things at 100%. Other things they went down to 75, but nonetheless, you're able to take the full write-off in the first year, right? So that's key. Insurance, fuel, maintenance, all those things that are related to the business itself. So if it's ordinary and necessary, it's 100% write-off.
Yeah,
or deducted, exactly.
And that's where, I've never owned toys like Chava, we kind of just...
I know. We'll get there someday.
You don't have to own them. You just come to us and we'll supply them.
That's right. You see?
Hey, he's plugging it in already.
Right. But I mean, now that
Entrepreneur.
Now that we, when obviously talking to you and asking you questions and stuff, and you're like, yeah, dude. I mean, you can buy the stuff as and have it as a business and still get to enjoy it. I mean, it just makes sense, because it's a business write off, but I still get to enjoy the toys, and yeah.
That's funny because I don't know if it was you who I told or something, but over the last 3 months, I've had like a good 20 people come in that have something similar, and that have their RZRs and all that, and they make $2,000-$3,000 a month just from having it, owning it, and renting it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the hell? Like I've always wanted one. Right. So what did I do last 2 weeks ago? I went to go buy one too,
Oh, nice.
And I was like, screw it, that's a write off for me too. So, but. And I say that because a lot of people that are watching this, like I said before, you can turn your fun and hobbies into a business. And the beautiful part is it allows you to leverage the tax system. Mm-hmm. If you guys are out on duty calls or whatever, dropping things off and you end up going to buy a meal, whatever the case may be, you could probably write it off. If you end up I know you guys are doing business meetings all the time now. And so if you go to a decent dinner and you are talking about business planning, things like that, you can write it off if you guys are.
Even this right here, you could write it off. Your gas, your fuel, time, whatever you.
Oh, I'm writing off every minute I'm spending with you
too.
today, Luis. The invoice is getting made over there.
For every dollar I'm spending,
He's my
$2
bill
with
collector
you.
right there.
Yeah. That's the quiet one. That's what he does.
That's he collects bills. But that's the whole point, right? For everybody watching, there are ways to leverage the tax system, and once you retain our services, we'll let you know how.
Exactly.
But no, and that's awesome, guys. And what are some of the cool things that you guys have seen in your industry? Now that I know there's a lot of linemen you guys have sent us. Now I know Brian Marquez was just last here a week ago or so. And what are outside of the awesome friendships you guys have made, what are some of the cool things that you've seen in the industry?
I mean, for myself, I've gotten to work pretty much, the whole state of California, and that's been an amazing experience. I've gone to seen places that I never would have gone to if it wasn't for my job. It's nice. I mean, obviously it's on the company, you stay at hotels. I mean, and they pay for your food. Like, I mean, everything's comped, you know what I'm saying? And the companies take good care of us because they understand the value that we bring. But yeah, I mean, just experiencing, working with helicopters, working with, backyard machines, cranes, like all this stuff, dude. Like it's something that, just you don't get to experience on other day-to-day jobs. You know what I mean? And it's awesome, dude. It's amazing. What you do?
Yeah, no, I agree. The equipment stuff we get to work with, flying in helicopters, some guys flying on the bottom of helicopters, going out and working places that, I probably wouldn't have gone to go see on my own, on a weekend or anything like that. Going to Catalina, working out there, just the opportunities, all the opportunities it gives you, just some of the beautiful places you get to see when you're up there in the bucket. I mean, you're literally at a bird's eye view looking at areas and the scenery. There's times you kind of, there's times I catch myself, it's been a long day or you're just getting after it all day and, you're up there in the bucket and you kind of sit back and just take a little moment and breathe and look around. You're like, man, this view's beautiful. And not a lot of people get to see that, or experience that. So, definitely just, something I try not to take for granted,
That's good.
Something
No, I was going to follow up with, so you guys talk about being all over the place. What is the most remote place you've been here in California where you say there's no civilization within 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 miles?
That's where he wants to live, wherever that is.
That's
In some sort of cave somewhere.
Just as long as I have electricity and internet, I think I'll be fine.
See, I got to do a work up north out in like the Sierras. And we were working out of a little town called Grass Valley, but we were, way out there, dude. We had to use satellite phones, and even the satellite phones weren't working. But you're rolling into these little towns, and your foreman's telling you, it's like, hey man, bring a few meals because where we're going, like there's nothing. You know what I mean? So we're gonna be out there for 12, 16 hours, and there's gonna be no food. So make sure you got enough, But yeah, out in, thick of the woods, dude, and you're just out there in the sticks, as they like to say. But
I haven't worked anywhere too remote out here in California, but I guess one of my good experiences when I was first starting my career, I just got out of my line school, couldn't find a job here locally, so I signed the books out in Arizona, and I got sent to Arizona to go worked out there for about 8 months, but was working in a little town called Kingman, Arizona. Not much there. It's a little dirt hole town, but man, that was just the experience as far as it was 115 degrees. You'd have these monsoons roll in, just start pouring rain on you, and get back out, and just the humidity and that really.
Arizona itself, it's remote, so
yeah.
Anywhere you go,
yeah,
that's it. It's just a small spot, and then surrounded by the rest of the desert. So yeah, I could see how that happened.
That doesn't sound fun at all.
No.
Well,
I've been to Vegas. That's nice.
It's a different desert, I'll tell you. Growing up, I take the desert, the 10 all the way to Texas every time, and the Arizona desert is really nice, to be honest. You appreciate it more at night and during the afternoon, primarily because of sunsets. But this cloud formation just shows up out of nowhere, pretty much.
Yeah,
out of nowhere. Like literally, you walk inside. 5 minutes later, you walk out. It's it's dark, not dark like literally, but there's no sunlight, and then you hear the thunderstorms, you see the lightning from afar. It's just really, really nice. Like, and at night, if it's clear, you have just the entire stars all over the place, man. It's just an amazing, yeah.
If you're from Texas, comment below if you really think that's true.
No, not from Texas, Arizona.
Arizona, my bad, Arizona.
We're talking about Arizona.
That's right. And any crazy stories while out in the field? I'm sure some stuff has happened. Sure, it's not all.
I mean, the craziest ones are, when you get these call outs, you get called out to a car hit pole. You see the aftermath, and you see these people. A lot of it's drinking and driving. That's what it boils down to. And you roll up on these scenes. I fortunately haven't rolled up on a scene that someone is still in the car and still there, but I do talk to guys or, our troublemen that go out, and they're first responders. They're right there with the cops and the firefighters there, because sometimes the cops or firefighters, they're not going to touch that person if they feel that power pole is energized or lines on the ground. They're not even going to come close until they get confirmed, from one of our crews or a troubleman that, hey, this line is de-energized. It's safe for you guys to go ahead and, go help this person out. But that's kind of the craziness that we kind of come across, these car hit poles, and you just see that aftermath, and you're just like, Jesus.
Before we went on vacation, me and him actually did a car hit pole together, and the guy, so it's a real windy road down, coming down, was Highway 9 in Saratoga?
Yeah.
And the guy obliterated the pole and went down this ravine, but his car was like, I don't know, like 300 feet down the ravine. They had to pull it out, you know what I'm saying? So, stuff like that's pretty gnarly, dude. You see it, and you're just like, wow. You hope the person survived, but, they're flying through trees and everything, dude. And then, you know what I'm saying? It's pretty stuff like that all the time,
Is there any, experience that you guys did or that you went through that you remember that you just can't forget, unfortunately? He has one.
Go for it.
That's not a good chuckle.
No, it's not. Shout out to my boy Mike Diaz out in San Diego. He was my pole partner before him. Now he's my pole partner.
Yeah.
And I'm power line pole.
Before I knew this industry, if I hear a pole partner or this, we work on poles all day and stuff.
How do I get into that industry?
Right.
Well, no, picking it back on the joke that you made earlier about the lineman and
right.
football, I was thinking lineman as other stuff. I was like, wow, yeah.
And this is why Luis is not on many podcasts, guys. This is why Luis is not on many podcasts.
Many Red Bulls, but that's it.
It's that good.
So no, me and my boy we were working some helicopter sets, and
Is that where the helicopter's pulling somebody like that, or?
Yeah, but we were setting the poles with the helicopters because it was in an inaccessible area, and sometimes you got to be up there. You know what I mean? Because you're catching off. On this particular pole, we had to set a transformer on it, so we were up there to set the transformer. Well, the helicopter guy came in a little hot, a little too fast, and when he pulled back out, he hooked the line with the transformer. And the pole twisted in a way that it's not supposed to twist. And, we thought we were going down with that pole, dude. We thought he was going to snap it. And, man, it was a big old shit moment for us. There? Yeah, it was a big old shit moment for us because, you're strapped to that pole. So if it comes down, dude, you're riding it. 50-foot pole, you're going to the ground, and it was sketchy. But, luckily nothing happened, and I'm still here. So, you know what I mean? But that's a memorable one for me.
That's a tough one right there. So what about yourself, man? What's something crazy you can't forget so far in the field?
Oh, man, there's a number of them. It could be almost every day you have something you're not going to forget. Every day is different. But in one particular, it's nothing too crazy, but one experience that I was like, it was oh shit moment. I was actually working with George. We were going to be just replacing some cross arm on a pole, it's supposed to be some easy little job, just run up there and go do it. And we had one, make a long story short, one guy went up, he came back down, and we realized the pole was rotten at the base. Our groundman at the time dug down, and foreman told him, hey, inspect that pole real quick. And he was able to stick a ruler about a foot through it. So then it turned into an emergency, and it ended up being, hey, we need to call an emergency crane set. We need to call, we need to get this pole changed. Last thing you want is this pole to fall down this customer's backyard. So then me and him were tasked with, well, now you got to climb it and go up and go hook this crane up. So in the process of luckily hooking it up first, that pole snapped at the base, so we're on that pole, and now it's just being held by the crane out from the street. So yeah, that was a good one. It was my first and only. Thank God that pole snapped on the bottom, and that thing's just free floating in the air.
Oh shit! With you guys up there?
Yeah, with us up there.
So, man.
Yeah.
Have you guys had anything crazy happen to any of your guys? Because I know that's a very risky industry. I'm sure people have not made it through the field, and it's a lot of times that these stories never get told.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, thank God, no. I mean, I don't want to personally have to deal with that experience, but a lot of guys I have worked with that have dealt with that experience. Guys dying on the crew, and it doesn't get talked about. It really is. Despite the money and everything you make, it is a dangerous job. And that's why you lean on your crewmates so much. You want to trust the guys you're working with, and you want to build a bond. And they say it. You don't have to like everyone. You don't have to like the guy next to you. But when it comes to going up in that primary and working on 12,000 volts, I gotta trust him. You might not have to like him, but you gotta trust him. You that's all you got up there. He's got your back and you got his. You can get down on the ground and walk your separate ways, and that's fine. But there's a professionalism when it comes, when you're working that high voltage, and stuff does happen.
That's where that term pole partner comes from, pretty much.
Yeah, pole partner. There we go. It's not what you thought, Luis.
Yeah, it's sorry. You with him, when I work with him, I don't even, what I mean? Like I know I could be facing this way doing stuff, and he's the eyes behind my head, and I'm the eyes behind his head, and you trust each other, what moves you're gonna make, and yeah, I mean, sometimes, I mean, we've had jobs where me and him go up, and then the job scope changes because now you see what's going on, and you're like, oh shit, like we can't do this way, the way we planned it. Now we got to change things up, and sometimes, I mean, you've heard stories of guys, they run up the pole and they don't, pay attention to what they're doing, start moving stuff around, and then an arm breaks, or, that we could have climbed that pole easily and not paid attention or not dug down, and we're up there working, moving wire, letting wire off, and then boom, like next thing you know, you're riding that thing to the ground, so it's super, super important to have somebody that you trust, and that how they work and all that stuff, so yeah, it's a big deal,
Makes sense. No, and for somebody, and you have anything to add? Okay. For somebody, I know that a lot of people that are watching this that still maybe are just like, what the heck? So how does somebody start in that field? What are the first couple steps you recommend for somebody that wants to go into that industry to make a lot of money?
You want to give them the NLC way?
So there's a line school. It's called Northwest Lineman College. They have one up in Orville. They have one in Texas, Florida. And I want to say they recently opened up another one. I mean, if you go on Northwest Lineman College, I'm sure it's going to tell you all their campuses. It's about a 4-month program. When I went back in 2015. The tuition there was $15,000. So that was for that covered your tools, and that covered your tuition to go there. But if you're looking to go there, and I had to quit my job, so I took a loan out for $25,000. Just
survive.
You got to survive. You got to survive for 4 months, and you got to pay rent out there, and you got to find somewhere to go. But it's a good school. I mean, a lot of utilities now are kind of requiring you to go there. They look for you to go there. So it's kind of the only choice you got. There is other one. There's LA Trade Tech.
That's the one that's here. Well,
yeah, but you got to enroll in the college, and you got to take college classes to be able to get into that. Some people don't. So NLC is the fastest path. You go to NLC, just pay the money, get out of there with a climbing certificate. They'll help you get your Class A permit. You're going to want to get your license. And then from there, ultimately, man, you can go start applying at Edison, any major utility, or you can go to the local 47, local 1245, which is your union hall, and you can sign the books as a groundman, just to get going,
My route was I went through East LA Skill Center, which is that's a LA Unified School District sponsored program. So it's I mean it's not like NLC. I had to wait for, I think I was on a waiting list for a little over a year until I got into the school, you know. And then once I got into the school, it's like a 700-hour program, and I mean, but it's, you know, it's 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. So yeah, I mean, you're quitting
like a full-time job.
Yeah, you're quitting your job, and so you really gotta, you know, if you're gonna, you gotta prepare for it, you know, or at least be mentally ready that you're gonna have to cut back on a lot of things, you know. But ultimately, that small sacrifice has a huge payout, you know, if you go through with it and you know, you follow your path and you get into the trade, you know.
What was the most difficult part of school? Was there anything that was like that people should look out for?
Getting calluses on your feet and your shins from wearing the what we call our hooks. Our hooks is what we used to climb. And yeah, I mean, if you don't got a good set of boots, man, your feet are, dude, they kill you at the end of the day.
So invest in boots, good boots.
Yep, good boots. I think too, someone that's looking to get into the industry or thinking about it, you know, once you get out of school, a lot of guys have the misconception like, hey, once I get out of school and get this Class A license, I'm going to get hired tomorrow. You know, sometimes that's not the case. Like for me, that wasn't the case. I sat around, you know, for another 4 months, which was hard, you know, because again, you quit your job. Well, I had to come to realization, then talk to my wife. Hey, man, I'm gonna go sign these books in Arizona, and let me see if I can get a job out there. Thankfully, I did. But now that's another sacrifice. I was now working in Arizona, living in California, living out of motels, you know, for 8 months. And I, you know, at the time I had my newborn son, and then I had a wife at home, and you know that was just another major sacrifice. And so I tell guys that are looking to get into the field, like, hey, don't get discouraged if you don't get hired locally. Don't think you're going to get out of school and, hey, I'm gonna go apply to SoCal Edison and be working in my hometown. If you're from, you know,
I'm gonna be here in Downey.
Yeah, I'm gonna be here. Yeah,
I'm gonna be climbing Downey poles.
Yeah, you know, they got a yard right here in Whittier. You know, it's probably not gonna happen. You know, you may get into Edison, but you may get shit. You might get a job in Tulare, which is way out in the sticks, or you know, they have yards everywhere. Or, you know, you go sign those books and they're saying, hey, you're going up north. You know, so you got to be willing to, one, move around, and two, it's another sacrifice. But the reward is ultimately it pays out, you know.
With such a high wage job, and of course it's labor intensive, time intensive, things like that. How do you guys manage your relationships at home? So I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with that come to us here. You know, they have their businesses, they have their jobs, whatever the case may be, and sometimes the home base is not the best.
Yeah, I think there's a big divorce rate in our industry because.
But the opposite of that, right?
Is the D word.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it's.
He's talking about poles,
right.
D.
And it is. I mean, but that comes down to I'm blessed. My wife's completely understanding. She knew what it was going to be. You know, even from way back when I was first getting into the trade. I mean, she's held me down from the move to Arizona, from, you know, moving around and working all the hours I worked when I was locally, and then to now. I mean, even as a lineman, I'm still making the sacrifice. You know, we had a house, we have a home here, and, you know, we had everything going for us. And then I come hit her with, hey, I think we're going to be moving up north. You know, I know you're pregnant, and I know, and I know we got a lot going on, but, you know, I need to do this for our family. So she understands that, and she kind of took a backseat role, but she gets to be a mom and stay at home with the kids. And granted, I'm blessed. My wife's an RN. She's got her bachelor's, and she's a registered nurse. And through the whole COVID thing, when that started happening and we didn't know what school and all that, I kind of told her, you know what, just quit your job and be home, stay at home mom, and enjoy the kids and just enjoy them, because her same thing, her license isn't going anywhere. You know, if shit were to hit the fan, she can go back to work tomorrow. So I'm blessed. We're blessed in that aspect, but I'm also blessed, and she's completely understanding and understands what I'm doing is for our family and the betterment of our family. And, you know, I'm trying to give us a life that, you know, we didn't have growing up, and my kids' life that I didn't have growing up, you know, just, you know, I'm trying to bless us, and I'm blessed to have her. Yeah. She's solid.
For me, it's dedicating time. You know, like Chava said earlier, you got to have a strong woman, you know, to back you, because that's important, you know. I mean, if or whatever your choice of partner may be, you know, but you have to have, you know, a strong base at home
I'm glad he threw that in there.
I mean, it is 2023. You know, we got to be sensitive to everyone. But yeah, you know, I mean, having a strong base at home is important. You know, with your wife and stuff, and you know, like with me, like you know, with Diana, I'm blessed. You know, she's. I mean, hey, we got to go here. Okay, you know what I mean? Like she's always been understanding, and like Chava said, I mean, you know, she gets to stay home and raise the kids, which is a luxury that a lot of people don't have nowadays. You know, a lot of people have to have two people working just to get by. But, you know, and then when I'm off, I try to give them all of my time. You know what I'm saying? Like, where do you guys want to go? Where do you want to eat? You know, take them out, spoil them. You know what I mean? Do things with them. Because, you know, I mean, it's we spend so much time at work. When you do have free time, you know, I just want to be home and be with my wife and kids, you know, and spend time with them and make them happy, you know. Yes,
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and I guess that's a good tip for a lot of people here because they do struggle with what you said. You know, the divorce rate is high in entrepreneurs and in people who are high wage earners because unfortunately a lot of people don't know how to deal with relationships, and I feel like that's a subject that maybe gets left behind a lot of times.
Right.
Yep.
But if it's like the whole mental health stuff. If you're not happy and healthy inside and with your relationships, and the rest of the time, the rest of the things would fall apart too. So.
Right.
And for you guys, any tips that you guys have for anybody that's looking to go down that path? Anything you would recommend to these people that are looking to maybe either start a business or start going into the path of that you guys are going into now that you guys are down that, you know, for a few years?
If they want to start a business, come see my primo Juvenal.
Yeah. Beyond that, you use code top tier for referral fee. We'll make sure we give you some hookups if you let us know you came through these guys.
I mean, for me, it's just, you know, get educated as far as, I mean, you know, people talk about reading books and listening to podcasts. I mean, that stuff's powerful. You know what I mean? Like I was lucky, you know, because I mean, you know, I didn't come from money or anything like that, and I was lucky to meet people along the way that told me,
"Hey, Chris Stacks,
Chava Stacks,
Chava Stacks,
had the devil on my shoulder over here." No, I'm just kidding. But you know, I had people along the way. You know, I mean, we like to call them, you know, OG linemen that were, you know, hey man, you know, buy a property, you know, invest your money, you know, max out your 401k, you know, all those things. You know, don't live within your means. You know what I mean? So you had those guys, and you know, if you paid attention, you see that those guys they're a lot more lax than the guys that are, you know, got 30 years with a company and they're having to work everything. You know what I mean? And you're just like, wow, like this guy, they're going on vacations all the time and they're taking time off. You know, so I had those guys, you know, that I listened to, and then that alone, that started stemming me to like okay, let me read books, let me do this, let me do that, you know, and just talking to people, asking questions, people that know money, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, you know, before, I mean, I didn't know what you did, you know, I mean, I always saw you pushing some nice whips, but I was like, man,
don't believe this guy, I have nothing, I own nothing.
But, you know, after we had that conversation, I was like, wow, you know, I could learn a lot from Juvenal, and you know, I mean, you know, like I said, you've helped us a lot. So just, I mean, I'm a professional in my industry. I know what I'm going to do, you know what I mean? And go to people that are professionals in certain industries that you want to learn about and ask them questions and talk to them about it, you know what I mean? And that's how you learn. That's how you progress, you know what I mean?
Yeah. How about yourself, brother?
No, I agree. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. You know, you talk to people who are professionals in their industry, that's only going to benefit you, you know, because, you know, for ourselves, and you look at your taxes, you know, as a W-2 employee, and, you know, sometimes you look at it and you look at all the hours you put in, especially for us, man, it gets sickening sometimes. You're like, man, 50, almost damn near 50% of the time that I was at work, is gone, you know, so, you know, now getting introduced to you and starting, you know, we opened up one LLC doing, you know, renting my house out at home, and now we're, you know, on this next venture, you know, it's just leveraging and learning, you know, because this is stuff that they don't teach you in school, you know, so you're kind of forced, unless you want to learn about it, you got to read about it, you know, listen to podcasts, and I started getting into that as well, you know, listening to podcasts, you know, reading some books, and you know, just, you know, asking questions, you know, anytime I have a question, we're texting you, we're reaching out to you, hey man, what about this, or what can we do with this, you know, so it's, don't be afraid to ask a question. Some guys,
Yeah.
I get it. They know everything, and they don't want to ask for help. I'm not too proud to ask for help. I'm gonna, if it's something I don't know and it's gonna benefit me, then of course I'm gonna reach out and ask for help. And this is a good spot to come to if you're thinking about opening up a business.
No, I appreciate that. And just to piggyback off that, Luis, and anything you want to add about like the whole taxes are here, right? What can people do, people like them, to prepare themselves for not just tax season, but to have a successful tax relationship next year?
So yes, next year is key. Obviously, 2022 is already out the door. But even with when did you guys start? For example, your LLC in 22?
Yes.
All right. So we already have a jump start on the possibilities that we can do between now and April. For someone who is trying to offset their tax liability, I mean, create assets, create business ventures, do tax deferment through retirement accounts through those business ventures, right? So retirement accounts are key. You talk about 401k, IRAs. As an employee, there's limitations on what you could do with an IRA. I think it's like 16,000 max. As a self-employed individual through a business, you can maximize up to $54,000 per year, and I'm sure you have that in hand, right? So
I think they just set up their 401k too for their business.
right. So 401k is great, a little more volatile than the IRA. I would prefer an IRA than a 401k, but as a technically as self-employed through the business, you can maximize that to 53,000 a year, right? So ask yourself, do you want to pay those 53,000 to Uncle Sam or put him to work for you for the future? Right. And with the kind of money that you're making, it's most likely in the next 10, 15 years, 20 years, you'll be able to put those $53,000 in there. That's over $2 million that you'll be able to put, in the next 20 years for your retirement on top of what you already grew in assets, right? And maybe able to be retired sooner, right? Because you want to go ahead and utilize the money that you have right now to create assets to basically provide you with the fun things that you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So definitely going through that. So tax deferment and the credits would benefit you through businesses.
Ooh, and another question, right? Because I know this is the question that and I'm just thinking, okay, linemen and kind of the things that people have asked these last couple of weeks, these last couple of months. Now, why is it important to separate like a property from you on a personal basis, and putting it into its own LLC, things like that? Because I feel like a lot of times we may understand why, but maybe the person listening to us needs a breakdown of, like an English breakdown of why it's important to separate your assets into a company versus leaving everything on your name.
Okay, so when you put a property into an LLC, you're immediately separating yourself from the liabilities of that property, right? We know that we live in California. We are the highest, what do you call it?
Just look in the freeways and the billboards and you'll know what's up.
Suits are everywhere. Not suits, like people suing people because of whatever. And we're the suit capital of the world. And, you have a tenant who's just, pardon the expression, an asshole and decides to slip on a banana peel and then boom, he's suing you. If that property is under your name, he can go after whatever personal assets you have, right, for restitution. Versus if it's independent and LLC, you can only go up to where the LLC is. You have a good insurance, it takes care of it, and it stops there, right? Another reason is that you're protecting the property from your personal liabilities.
Yep, goes vice versa.
Right, so if you do harm to someone sues you personally, now they cannot go after the value of that property because technically it doesn't belong to you, right? But then you do have that ownership of the LLC. So they can go after that. But if you put that into a trust, which is, I think, a whole different subject on estate planning, then you can go ahead and protect yourself, protect the property, right? And then in addition to that, if you put the LLC the property into the LLC, you're basically running a business. So you can write off a lot of things related to it as well. And then use either the gain or the loss to your advantage at the end of the year. Right.
And those little details, of course, we'll go into it'll be case by case.
One more. I want to talk about holding
companies.
Holding companies. You guys have this business, right? And you have all these toys that you're going to rent out. Well, they're either under your name, which they're exposed to your liabilities, or they're under the LLCs, which they're exposed to the LLC liabilities. One recommendation is to put all those assets in another LLC, just as a holding LLC, right? So we want to put all that there because now it's untouchable. Somebody sues you, they can't go after it. Somebody sues the LLC, they can go after it. And let's say, for example, the lawsuit is big enough to where it'll bankrupt your LLC. Well, it'll bankrupt whatever's in there, but not those assets. So you can just go ahead and start fresh again with those same assets, right, but a different company. Obviously, there's more paperwork than that, right? There's more than just saying, no, I'm going to do this. No, but there's proper ways of doing it. But that's a good way to do it. I mean, we always advise our clients that have, like in the food truck industry, their trucks, that's their moneymaker. And somebody sues them, or their company, and the truck is not protected, there goes the whole business. Right. $80 to $100,000 in assets. So recommendation for business like yours is put the money-making assets into either a trust or an LLC.
Check.
Nice.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Makes sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, once the cameras and mics are off, we'll go into all the little details for you guys.
Right. Once you retain our service, you'll...
That's his line. I'm telling you, we're going to put that under Luis's business card. Luis Jimenez, once you retain our services,
we'll give the details, exactly. Right now, it's just, let me just grab your attention and then pull you in.
Look at this guy.
And
all the things that he's doing he shouldn't say.
And then help you. Because that's the key. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're here for.
Right.
To advise. And it's great that, what you were referring to earlier, speaking to individuals who have experience, knowledge. I mean, I've been in this industry for almost 20 years, right? Both accounting and business information advisory, 20 years.
Older than I am, Jesus.
Hey, man, experience is key here. But right. I just started like a young little kid, just like Juvenal, just with a dream. And here I am sitting next to him. So
that's right.
That's a good beard for being a little kid.
Right? I got a haircut yesterday too. I got trimmed out and everything. The rest of it is in my arm.
So it's good to speak to people that know. I mean, even I have questions, and I go to individuals who have far more knowledge than I do, because I think it's important to always grow your mind with all this knowledge of. Either it could be just random things, points of interest. My kids always ask me, hey, Dad, well, what do I have to learn about this? I'm like, well, if I'm never going to use it. Well, you're never going to use it, but you're always going to know it. Right. And you never know when you're going to start a conversation where this comes up and you're like, I know this subject. Yeah. Or I can chime in myself or give my opinion based on it. Because that's happened to us often. We learned something 20 years ago, something my dad taught me 20 years ago, and I've never used it. But you know what? It came up in this conversation, and now I'm relevant to it, or I can contribute to the conversation. So
if I can add something to what you're saying, I've discovered in all my asking people questions and stuff that most people that like yourself and Juvenal, most people are willing to answer questions for you, but they're not just gonna look for you to answer hey, you should do this, but if you come to them and you say, hey, I got a question about this, I mean. And a lot of people they're not going to charge you for it, because, or whatever. I mean,
they should.
But most people are
Please won't reply until you
Please deposit $50 for the next 10 minutes.
First, you got to give your credit card information, and then that response comes.
Yeah.
But you ask people questions, and they're willing to answer, and it's cool. So you just food for thought for the people out there. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right. Closed mouths don't get fed, man. Yeah. That's what it is. And no, we all, just like you saying, we all have mentors of our own. We all have people that we learn the game from that are probably 10, 20, 50 times doing much better than us. And so we're just that next layer, that next wave that we're always learning too. Right. For us, it's mandatory because of the industry we're in. Taxes change, laws change, compliance updates happen, even our employment and things like that. So it's mandatory that we do trainings, we stay up to date every couple months and so on and so forth. But for someone like you guys that are entrepreneurs that are moving forward every day or that are just experiencing new things, it's important to have that extra layer of, I guess, advisory and protection, from somebody who's unemotional about your situation. Yeah. I think it applies in every situation because a lot of times we have clients who financially they bring in a lot of money, but financial habits are no bueno. Yeah. And we've all been there. Shoot, I remember when I used to make stacks. I used to be like, my boy over here. I used to have stacks in my pockets, but then at the end of the month, what happens?
Yeah.
We're just like,
good.
oh shoot, where the hell did it go? And then you're looking, and you're like, I don't even know where you spend it.
Popping bottles, huh, bro?
That's te compa acá.
Hey, I'm domesticated. I'm sorry.
But it's important to have that backing because a lot of times our clients now come to us. We do budget sessions with them, or when we do their accounting and things like that.
The realization hits them like a ton of bricks. Like, shit, I spent $200 a month in Starbucks, or
you can't say that, my boy.
no. I mean, this is like 1 in a million. It's like it's dry coffee January as well.
It's instead of it's better than alcohol.
It's better.
I've never tried alcohol, but I've heard it's better than alcohol.
That one's a write-off, though, right?
This is a write-off, exactly. That's right. Because my time right now, my hourly rate is a write-off. So, but yeah, no, it's
numbers tell a story.
Yeah.
I want to say if you're not in control of your numbers are going to control you. So make sure you guys, have a good system in place. What do you any recommendations for that? Because I know we handle that for a lot of people, but why is it important for somebody to have
create a forecast, create a tax planning, create a budget, right? Yes, money comes in very, very fast sometimes with certain industries, but at the same time, it goes really fast because you don't realize what you're doing with it. We have clients who walk in, they look very, they look adequate, flashy, whatnot. But then we make them realize, look, you spend this much in this particular place, right? I mean, what was the gratification or the satisfaction in that? Oftentimes it's like, it's just sitting there now. So be mindful where you put your money. Be mindful how you invest it. Create wealth through investment, through what you make from the business, because that's really what's going to happen. That's what's going to benefit you down the road. Otherwise, if we're just generating income to spend it, it's just going to be a cycle, endless cycle that we're just going to continue to be in over and over and over. And we're going to be 60, 70, and we're still going to be in that same cycle because it's a bad habit that you developed since you were in your 20s, 30s, etc. So, yeah, I think that would sum it up. Just be mindful of your spending and investment. And
it's hard to break that cycle.
It is difficult. I mean, again, we go with
it's the people you hang out with. That matters a lot. Not just kidding about him, but it is. Association matters a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
Hanging out with people like Luis that pop bottles every day is hard for you not to.
Being a lone wolf sometimes is not a bad thing. So, again, budgeting, forecasting, doing some tax planning along with that budget and forecast is key, right? To preparing for the year. And that's what we do here as well. So if you guys are needing, or anybody who needs help with that, once you return to service, no, just playing. Like he said, ask a question, we don't mind answering it.
Yeah, we don't charge for consultations here. I've always been told, like, you guys should charge for consultations, like your time is important too, blah 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 blah. But for the last couple of years, man, we haven't charged anything, and it's just worked out to our favor. Right. I feel like the more seeds we sow, the more we reap, and it may not be those seeds that we reap, but we'll eventually reap. And we've been blessed to be able to, be in the industry for a while and explode this year. And for those of you watching this, you're gonna. There's many other episodes we've done. Make sure you check them out. At the end, we're gonna put down below some of the good episodes, some of the newer episodes coming up and stuff. But we've been blessed this year that 2022 was a really good year for us to not only be able to grow as ourselves, but to be able to empower a lot of other people. And we're looking to do 5 times, 10 times that this year. And again, if I know we are getting ready for tax season. So if you are a business owner, if you are somebody who has any kind of questions about business taxes, make sure you reach out. We're more than happy to schedule you in. We are appointments only. Please don't just show up. If people just show up, we may not be here, number one. Number two, of course, we may have 7 people lined up already. So best way to reach us is through appointments. And, of course, if you are referring us, if you are a client of ours, or if you see value in what we're doing, make sure you give us a referral. That's the best compliment you can give people like us. Give us a referral. Send a 3-way text to your friends. I know you guys do that very well. And, we look forward to being able to help a lot of you guys. But for taxes, what do people need to bring to us? I know this is the last thing I want to talk about, but taxes are coming. If they have a business, because we're only doing business taxes, we don't do personal taxes. If you have a business, and of course you need to do the personal side, we'll work with you. Yeah, we'll take care of it. But if you come, no personal taxes, unfortunately, guys. But what as a business owner, what do we got to bring to the table to make sure that we have a successful tax session?
So the first thing is let's try to bring in the structure of the business, LLC, sole proprietorship, And,
Bring your binders.
Or corporation. And then with LLCs, it's important to note what type of business structure, what kind of tax structure you have. There are a couple of ways. So it's individually, which is the pass-through, partnership to individuals, as an S Corp or a C Corp. So there are 4 ways an LLC can be taxed. We need to know which way is the right way because a specific tax form gets sent to the IRS and to the state for every single type of way it's being taxed. So it's important to know that. If it's sole proprietorship, if you have a trade name, if you have a tax ID number associated with it, then that's even more beneficial for you. Corporation standard, if it's a corporation, taxed as a C Corp or an S Corp, it's very important to determine which one because, again, 4 different forms are used. And we file the wrong one, it gets rejected, and then we have to do the tax return all over again, right? Secondly is those were the details of your business. Secondly, now we're going to go to the accounting. If you have a strong profit and loss statement where your income versus your expenses, the best possible way, if you didn't hire someone like us to do it for you, is to put all the income related to the business and all your expenses related to the business as well. And we subtract one from the other and determine whether you had a profit or loss from there. And that's pretty much it. I mean, to start with, if you need help with the accounting or anything like that, I mean, let us know and we can definitely help you and figure it out for you.
Yeah, and being that it's the New Year's, make sure you guys set some plans, set some goals. We want to hear about them. If you have any kind of goals for your business, anything that you want to project this year, we definitely want to hear about them. For us, that's something I do every year that I think has helped us become successful. I know that's something you do as well. We sit down at the beginning of the year, we set goals, set a plan to reach those goals, and maybe set 2 or 3 goals max. You don't want to be the what is it? You're good at everything, but a master of nothing. You want to 2, 3 goals, financial goal, health goal, whatever you want to do, self-development goal, but make sure you come up with a plan. And for us, make sure, what helped me last year, I think what came to be why we're here as well, last year my motto was think less, do more. And we just acted a lot more because I feel like a lot of us think way too much and we don't act. Right. And so this year, it's going to be a little different. And I'm going to make sure we post up what that is in my Instagram so you can check out there. But everything we do moving forward is going to be a reflection of that. We rebranded as well our stuff. So excited to be able to help a lot of you guys. And again, just thank you guys for coming out. I know you guys had a fun week. Yeah. You guys are probably not wanting to come and sit down and do a podcast, especially after you guys had a long week. I know you were drinking a lot of water.
Oh, yeah.
Out in the desert.
Staying hydrated.
Staying hydrated in the desert. But thank you guys again for making the drive out and, of course, for trusting us with, your businesses, with a lot of what your future has to be. So really appreciate you guys. And, of course, Luis, always having my back here.
Gotcha, bud.
So if you guys are checking out the episode, we'll put their information down below. And for top tier rentals, again, if you don't have the space, if you don't have the money to afford all these things that these guys have, beautiful thing that you can do is now rent them all at once, right? For a day, for a weekend, for a week, and if you want to take them for a month, well, they're welcome to. Yeah. So check them out below. And any final messages you want to tell the people?
Check us out at Top Tier Rentals 951 on Instagram. Also at FrenchFellas__CA. I have a French Bulldog breeding business.
That's right.
Thank you very much, you guys. We appreciate everything you guys do for us and have done for us, and look forward to doing business in the future, and excited to what this new business is going to bring, and my partnership with my boy. It's like he said, we were friends, now we're family, and now we're business partners, and it means a lot to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Just thank you guys. Thank you guys for the knowledge and taking the time to answer our questions and help us out through this business venture. We've gained a lot, and probably going to continue to gain a lot of knowledge. And through our relationship with you guys. So we appreciate your guys' time and everything you shared with us.
No, of course. This is just the beginning. Luis, any final words?
Make sure you retain the services.
Make sure you retain our services. Absolutely.
Credit card link below.
Zelle,
Venmo, Cash App. Dude, we'll talk about that.
Cash is king.
We'll talk about that next time. A lot of people are asking about that.
The Cash App and Venmo and Zelle, the differences.
If you want to hear about that, make sure you follow us on YouTube, follow us on our social media platforms, and we'll go into the next podcast about all the changes that there was, because it's going to be crazy, and you want to make sure you don't get out of it. But with that, we are done episode. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.